Hey guys, so I'm back and I'm here to do a review for you for the Nars All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation, which is a brand new liquid foundation in Nars' lineup, and they debuted this a few weeks ago and I picked it up to do a review for you guys since you guys have been requesting it. So I'm going to do an application demonstration for the foundation as well as a wear test, and then I'm going to go into the pros and cons of the foundation to see if this is something you might want to check out for yourself. So as I said, this foundation is brand new and it debuted on the Nars Cosmetics website, so you can pick it up there. It's also now available in Sephora stores, Sephora online, and then any Nars counter that may be available in different department stores such as Bloomingdales, Saks, Lord & Taylor. If you can find it at those counters, it will also be available. And there are 19 shades to choose from. What I like about Nars' foundations is that they do go into a deeper shade range. So if you're a darker complexion, you can probably find your shade in this foundation. I picked up the shade Medium Dark 2 Tahoe, which is my typical shade in the Nars Sheer Glow and the Sheer Matte. Now, as far as price, this foundation retails for $48, which is a $3 increase from the Nars Sheer Glow or the Nars Sheer Matte that you're used to. And the standard size for liquid foundations on the market is 1 ounce, so you are getting the full 1 fluid ounce in this bottle right here. Now, since I mentioned price and the fact that this is a little bit more expensive than the other Nars foundations, I should mention also that this foundation comes with a pump. And the Nars Sheer Glow and Sheer Matte foundations do not come with a pump already on the bottle. So you do have to buy the pump separate from the foundation itself, which I think, if I'm not incorrect, it's $6 for the pump itself. So really, this foundation works out a little bit cheaper if you include the price of the pump. So it depends on how you take it. And compared to other foundations on the market, again, this is the most expensive liquid foundation in Nars' lineup, and it's getting closer to prices such as Bobbi Brown prices, which it actually sits alongside in department stores, so the price might not hit you that hard. But then you have foundations such as Makeup Forever and Smashbox and even Urban Decay that are more in the lower $40 range. So compared to those, this is definitely a steeper price. It's definitely not the price of YSL and Chanel and Dior foundations, but it is a higher price, so I think you would have to want to make an investment in a foundation and really like it a lot, like the formulation, to invest $48 into that foundation. The All Day Luminous Weightless Foundation comes in a smoked glass bottle. It's a more squared shape. It's not rounded like some foundations. It's a squared shape. Again, it's smoked, and you can see the level of your foundation through the glass itself. The Nars logo, of course, is on the front, and then on the back you have the product information, and then on the bottom there's a label with the shade name, the product information. It's a 24-month expiration date or shelf life, and it does say to shake well. So you're gonna want to shake this foundation very well before you apply it, because they're not just telling you that for their health. On the top you'll have, it's almost like a rubberized black cap, and this is similar to the typical Nars packaging with that rubberized black finish. And again, there is a pump that is included with this foundation, so you don't have to buy a separate pump. And the pump itself is the typical Nars foundation pump, and I think it works really well for this formulation in that it doesn't dispense too much product at once, because this foundation, you need very little when you apply it to your skin. The coverage is really great, so you need very little, and I think it gives you the perfect amount that is going to work to cover your skin. And even if you use more than one pump of the product, you can still control how much product you pump out, which I think is really great, because you don't want to get excess product out and end up wasting a lot of the foundation. Overall, I really like the new packaging. I think it's sleek, I think it fits the Nars aesthetic, and it's a really nice bottle. Alright guys, so I'm going to grab the foundation. Again, my shade is Tahoe and it says to shake well, so that's what I'm going to do. Then I'm going to grab 1 pump, because it says, oh, that's all you need. And 1 pump, that's what it gives me, which is a little bit, but that's what I'm going to use as they said. And I'm going to grab my Tarte Air Bouquet brush for this. And they recommend using your fingers. I'm not going to use my fingers. Oh, and I should mention, I'm jumping into things. I should mention that I used my orange corrector under my eyes. This is the Studio Conceal and Correct. I used the, no, I didn't use that shade. I used the Burnt Coral shade right here, just under my eyes. As you can see, there's a little orange under my eyes to conceal and cover up my dark circles. And my skin, I didn't prime it with primer or anything, because I found that this foundation doesn't work really well with primer, any of the primers that I have tried. So I'm just going to use the foundation on bare skin. And I should have showed you the issues that I have, which aren't many. I do have some darker hyperpigmentation, but it's nothing crazy on my skin. I do have some darkness on my like the sides of my mouth and from some areas that I broke out, but it's nothing crazy. So again, going in with the Ibuki brush, and even though they say 1 drop, I'm gonna need to use more than 1 drop just because I'm using a brush. And when you use a brush, obviously it's going to soak up some of the product. So I'm using a second pump. It soaks up some of the product, so you're going to lose some product in the brush itself. So if you use your hands, it actually doesn't need that much product to cover. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see a little better as I apply it to my skin. And we'll focus on this area here where I have that little, it's just a little dark mark, but I want to show you how it covers. So you see the dark mark is gone. It was a little spot, but I thought I would show you that for reference. So I'm applying that all the way up my skin. Again, I have no primer, I have no moisturizer, because I feel like the foundation doesn't mix well with those products. I don't know why, but I feel like it's best on bare skin. So if you have dry skin and you need a moisturizer, I would say apply your moisturizer way ahead of time so it can really sit into your skin and won't interfere with the foundation, like really set into your skin. Alright, so I've applied it on my skin. I used 2 pumps as you saw, just to build up the coverage, because I am using a brush so it doesn't cover quite as well. And this is my skin now, and I'll come in so you can see. So you can see the finish on my skin. I had a little scar right here that it covered really well. I have a scar right here as well. And without the moisturizer, it sits better on my skin. Like without primer and moisturizer, it sits much better on my skin. But I do still see like the powder residue of the product. I don't know if you can tell, there's like powdery product on my forehead. It looks a little textured, and I have a zoom in mirror so I can see the difference on my skin. And that's the thing I don't like about the foundation, that I can see it on my skin, like I can see the texture on my skin. And I know I'm being picky, but I don't like to see foundation, because that signals to me that later in the day when my oils start bursting through, I'm gonna see separation of the foundation and my skin. The finish though looks very skin-like. I still can see like my skin, my natural skin. So it's kind of a pro and a con. You see the texture of the foundation, but you still see your skin. So it's a more natural finish, but the color too is a little bit off. I think it's a little bit too light on my skin, but that's what the foundation looks like. I'm gonna finish up my face and come back in a bit. Alright guys, so I went ahead and I applied some blush. I used a cream product, so I applied it to the tops of my cheeks, and I just had to pull the whole look together, but I didn't apply any other powder. So I feel like I should powder one side of my face just to see how it works with a powder, and then leave one side without a powder. So I'm just going to grab my Marc Jacobs powder. I have the Nars powder, but it doesn't quite fit me very well. So I'm just going to powder the right side of my face, just in the areas that I don't have anything else. So under my, oh, I should apply it under my eyes though. on both sides. But okay, that's it on that side. In my forehead area, just right there, and on the side of my nose. So this side has powder, and that side doesn't. It does look a little off, right? Is it that noticeable? Like, am I gonna look crazy going outside right now? I don't care, all in the name of testing. Alright guys, so I finished up the face. I put some lip product on, put on my clothes for the day, and so far I like how the makeup is kind of settling in a little bit more as it warms up to my skin. I don't know if that's a thing for it, but again, this side is powdered, this side isn't, and we're gonna come back in a few hours and see how the makeup has been holding up throughout the day. Hey guys, so I am back for my 4.5 hour update. That's about halfway through my day, and there are a couple of things that I noticed about the foundation. Initially when I applied it, it didn't quite match my skin. It was a little bit too light. Now that it's kind of warmed up, mixed in with the oils in my skin, it actually matches my skin tone pretty well. So I would say it oxidizes slightly on my skin. So if you're like me and you were worried about the color being off, I was worried I needed to go darker, but it actually warmed up to my skin. That may or may not be a problem for you. I would say test this out on your skin before investing in the foundation. And I don't think I have to tell you that it has gotten very luminous, very kind of shiny now on my skin. And I do have very oily skin. I wouldn't say I don't lean too much combination. It's very oily skin. On the outer perimeters of my face, I don't mind the glow so much because it looks like my natural skin, but on the T-zone area, specifically on my nose, the oils have really burst through. I would say I don't particularly think it's a oily girl friendly foundation. It's not really meant for oil control. So if you are oily combination skin, you're gonna probably have to set this with powder. And I'll zoom in a little bit so you can see how it looks up close. Alright, so you don't have to even guess. My nose is really oily, and that's where I get the oiliest. Also in my forehead area and on my cheeks, you can see where the oil has broken through. Now, the oils aren't necessarily coming through as much on the powdered side, so I would say if you are oily combination, powder your skin and set everything in place. If I had powdered everything, I don't think I would have gotten this oily. But overall, it's about halfway through my day, and I don't think the wear is all that good. But I will say where I had the powdery areas where I thought the texture was a little bit off, it actually melted into my skin. So it's not quite as powdery in my forehead area, but I can still see the powder if I zoom in, but from afar you definitely can't tell. And I wouldn't say this gives the 16 hours of wear that they claim, because I'm only 4 hours in and already I look like this. So I wouldn't say this is necessarily the best foundation for oily skin. So that's gonna conclude my wear test. Obviously, it didn't quite do 16 hours of wear, and I don't think I have to show you any further. So I'm gonna go ahead and do some blotting and some powdering, and then I'll follow up with my final thoughts on the foundation. Alright guys, so now that we have gone through the demonstration, the application process, and how this foundation wears throughout the day, let's jump into what the foundation claims and if it does live up to those claims. So from the Nars website, it says, full natural looking coverage with unexpectedly weightless 16-hour wear. Highly pigmented and perfectly balanced, this breakthrough formula builds and blends effortlessly with just one drop. The result of an exclusive innovation uniquely designed to deliver long-wearing full coverage weightlessly. It says shake, pump, and blend in sections for complete coverage that's completely natural looking. It also says that the Weightless Long-wear Technology delivers up to 16 hours of wear while always feeling light as air. So the basic claims of this foundation is that it's weightless, it will give you full coverage with minimal product, so one drop they're claiming, and that it's gonna feel light as air. Now, you've gone through the demonstration with me. I do think it gives very good coverage with a very minimal product. I think I got great coverage from it. It covered some dark spots. It covered imperfections. I, again, don't have intense imperfections. So if you have more scarred skin or, you know, darker marks or hyperpigmentation. I'm not 100% sure how it will work for you, but I feel like it's buildable coverage, so you can conceal a lot of those hyperpigmentation and dark marks without too much effort. You might need to add concealer just to bump up the coverage, but I think overall the foundation does give you a nice medium to full buildable coverage. As far as finish, it is very natural looking. I do agree, you do see a lot of your skin through the foundation. It looks very skin-like. It's not a matte finish on my skin. It is more of a satin type finish. It's not dewy, but it's more skin-like. It looks more realistic. It's not flat and matte at all. Now, I have oily skin, so on drier skin, based on the texture that I saw on my forehead, where I tend to be a little bit drier initially, I wouldn't say this is the best foundation for dry skin. If you have trouble spots with dry areas, splotchiness, you might have issues with this foundation, especially since it doesn't really mix well from my experience with moisturizers and primers. So I would say get a sample if you have dry skin before you commit to a full bottle. Also, it says it's going to give you a light as air feel on the skin, and it's very breathable and comfortable. And I do agree that it is a lightweight foundation. It doesn't feel like heavy full coverage makeup can, which heavy full coverage makeup, you know, can feel really thick on your skin. You can feel the foundation, but I will say I still feel the foundation on my skin. I still know that I'm wearing foundation. It doesn't feel as lightweight as I would like. I have had better results with other foundations that are lighter feel on my skin, but this is not uncomfortable at all. It does feel lightweight. It doesn't weigh my face down. I don't want to rip my skin off throughout the day. So I think it does have a lightweight feel. It's just not the lightest feel I've ever had. And it is comfortable and it is breathable. Now for application, one tip that the website says is to warm it up in your hands and apply it with your fingers. And someone mentioned in my haul that I should apply it with my fingers and see if it applies better. And what I found is that with a brush or with my fingers, after about a half an hour with a brush, it still looks the same as if I applied it with my fingers once it warms up to my skin. So I do agree that you need to warm this product up for it to really look great on your skin. So if you have no problems using your hands, feel free. I don't like using my hands to apply foundation, so I'd rather use a brush. And I know in the long run it's gonna end up looking the same way, so I don't think so much that you have to worry about the brush versus your fingers so much, but definitely use a buffing motion to buff it into your skin. Kind of warm it up with your oils. Another tip is to use less than you think. One pump really does go a long way. It does really give great coverage to a large area of your face. So start out with one pump, use that and blend it over your skin before you start kind of piling this on as you would a typical liquid foundation. This guy needs very little, so start out with very little and then build up from there. I found that with a couple of foundations, one I recently reviewed where the foundation pigments actually separated with the oils on my skin, so you could see where the foundation was settling in my skin and where the oils were breaking through. And this doesn't do that. It still stays intact, like it melds and mixes with the oils in your skin to give you a natural, more dewy finish without being cakey or showing up on your skin as foundation, which I really like. But if you have oily skin, combination skin, where oils are going to be an issue for you and you don't want that overly oily finish, you are going to need to powder this. You might not get away with a primer. Test it out with your primers to see what primers work for it. You may not find one, but you're definitely going to need to powder. I like it, but I'm not in love with it, and I feel like at the price I need to kind of be in love with it, and it needs to do 80 to 90% of what I need from a foundation for me to really splurge on it. So overall, I think a lot of people are gonna like the foundation. I think more so normal skin, maybe normal combination, but not very oily skin and maybe not very dry skin. If you have any of those skin types, try to get a sample and test it out first on your skin before committing to the actual price of a full bottle. And that I think is key for any foundation, because the way it works on my skin is not the way it's gonna work on your skin. For my skin, I don't love this foundation. I feel like I can find a cheaper foundation that does just a little bit better on my oily skin, or even performs the same, and I'll set it with powder and all that. I'll do those extra steps because it's a cheaper foundation. But for this foundation, because of the price, I feel like it should do what I need it to do. I do like the finish. I do like the coverage. I think it looks great on the skin. I just don't like the wear of it and how it wears over time for me. I know the comparison is gonna come up for the Giorgio Armani Maestro Foundation and the L'Oreal Liquid Powder Foundation. They have a similar liquidy formula in that they're very liquidy, very watery, very runny. So it has a similar lightweight feel on the skin. They have very similar textures. I do feel like the Maestro Foundation blends in a little better with my skin and with primers and lotions. So I would go with the Maestro Foundation, even though this is a big investment. And if you are on a budget, the L'Oreal Liquid Powder Foundation is also a great option for drugstore and for everyday wear, which is what I would wear it for every day, and then save the Giorgio Armani for special occasions. But they're kind of similar textures with that serum type liquidy formula with concentrated pigments. So if you're thinking that it's similar, it definitely is. And Dior also has a version of this foundation with a dropper as well. I think the great thing about the Nars foundation is it does have a pump, so dispensing the product is much easier than with a dropper, or like the L'Oreal one that doesn't have a dropper or a pump at all. So I think this packaging kind of beats those, but they're very similar in formulation. I recommend this foundation specifically to get a sample because I feel like it's going to be hit or miss depending on your preference. So hopefully this review and demonstration helped. So if you have tried this foundation out and you have tips and tricks or primers that work with it that you like to use with this foundation, definitely let us know in the comments below, along with, you know, your skin type, so people can get feedback. Maybe it worked for you and it worked well, so we can interact and figure out maybe it does work for some people even though it doesn't work for me, because the coverage is nice, the finish is nice, it's just the wear for me. So until my next video, which will be soon, I will talk to you, and links will be below to my Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook pages where you can follow me along. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.